Welcome to Beyond the Basket, the podcast that takes you deeper into the world of disc golf, exploring the mental game and physicality behind the sport we love. I'm Craig Bettleship, and in each episode, we sit down with top players and world champions to break down their mindset, training routines, and the moments that define their careers. Whether you're grinding on the course, chasing your first win, or just looking for that extra edge, this is the place to be. So settle in and let's go beyond the basket. Today, we're talking with Greg Barsby, 2018 world champion, ranked number 3 in 2015, nearly suffering a career-ending injury, 2016 coming back for a winless season, 2017 recommitting to the game, 2018 culminating in his world championship. Greg talks about putting advice, the ability to delete quickly, and what interview would be complete without the iron leaf. Stay till the end for the origin and location of the iron leaf. As Greg and I were getting settled in, we were talking about staying positive on the course and fellow teammate Ohn Scoggins and how her attitude is just amazing. Let's pick it up there.
Got the spirit. It's just, she's one of my favorites to watch. Like when we're on the tour and in the mornings wherever we are, whether it's at like an Airbnb or even on the phone, I'll get to watch some of the FPO action. If I'm playing decent, I'll be able to watch a lot. And the goal is to play well enough to where I can watch the whole broadcast and then I'll go warm up. So
there you go.
But yeah, it's been so much fun watching her play, and just like she just embodies, I feel like, what disc golf is supposed to be, right? She's always having fun, and I feel like she carries herself with this kind of carefree nonchalantness that everybody can strive for out there, because she's also a really, really hyper competitor, and she's super good, but no matter what, she's like there, and she's always supportive of everybody. And it just really, like, watching Ohn kind of come into where she is now from when I first met her like 10, 12 years ago in San Diego. It's incredible. Like, she's one of my favorites.
Oh, ours too. My wife loves her.
Yeah, right. Who doesn't love? Oh, yeah.
I know. Seriously, she's on the couch and just cheering. It's awesome. It really is. So that's a great segue. So tell me, how did you get into disc golf? What brought you to this?
Well, that's a long story, and a long time ago, I guess, too.
It is a long time ago.
Yeah. So my parents moved from the house that I lived in until I was like 5 or 6 years old, which was out in Nevada City. They moved into Grass Valley, which is just not that far away, but they moved right behind the school, the elementary and middle school. And then that also butted up to the park, which is Condon Park. And I think I was riding bikes out there, and might have been with my sister, or maybe it was with my neighbor Clint. But I found a green disc in the creek, and it had no name on it. It just had 172. And it ended up being a green Discraft Cyclone with like the old really cool Cyclone stamp.
Yeah.
And my neighbor Clint, he had played, and he had some discs. And Clint, I think he was a year or two older. He's a year or two older than I am. So, but he had a few, and so I'd start going to play with Clint. And then a guy traded me at the front of the park. He traded 2 for 1. So he gave me 2 discs for 1, and I just thought this was the best. And really, I didn't know what I was doing with the disc or anything like that. But I feel like when he traded me that 2 for 1, he traded me a number 1 flyer from Lightning, and then which I think ended up being the number 2 hook shot. And so I was predominantly forehand. I don't think I didn't learn backhand until I was about 10. But yeah, one of them went straight and one of them veered to the right. So I think I kind of caught interest there, where they did different stuff and you could do different things with them. And that's kind of how I started playing. I found it in the backyard, and my parents didn't want me to go across the creek. Well, there's only one full hole on our side of the creek. which is hole 14. And so they didn't want me to go on the other side of the creek. But there's only one hole, maybe like 1.5 with 15's tee and 13's basket. So, of course, being a kid, Clint and I stuck the other side, and it was all cool. Like, Condon Park, it's not a huge park, but I understand where they're coming from. But yeah, that's how I started. And, I was able to play throughout my adolescence, through all the other sports too, like baseball and soccer. I did that. But disc golf was always kind of in the backyard. I could always go over there anytime after school or even before school and play. So I got a lot of time on the course.
That's one of the things that makes disc golf great is it's accessible to practically everyone. The cost of entry is $9 or even a little less, maybe used it to go, and play it again or something like that. And most of the courses are free. So how long have you been touring now? It's been a while. How many years?
Yeah. I guess we could preface this by what constitutes a tour to me.
Okay. All right, fair.
I think my first year of touring was 2006. Realistically, right? And that's going out. I graduated high school, and then I or maybe like 2007. I really went like full bore across the states, which there were maybe 24 people doing that at the time. But I played out of state before. I actually played my first world championship in 2000 when I was 13 at the Pro-Am Worlds in Michigan. And then I played the 2002 Am Worlds in Miami. I played the 2004 Pro Worlds in Des Moines, which was also Pro-Am. And then I played the 2005 Worlds in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And I played out of state and done that for a little bit, but like actually touring, I think 2007. So we're on season 18 of really touring and playing.
Wow.
Yeah.
18 years on tour, that takes a toll on the body. And one of the two kind of aspects of Beyond the Basket is, what's that mental approach? And also how do you keep up with it physically? That has to take a toll. What do you personally do to have such longevity in the sport and remain incredibly competitive?
Man, yeah, you're telling me it's creeping up, man. It is, and it gets harder. I think just playing a lot. That's another thing, right? I mean, it's just like the bicycle. If you stay on the bicycle, it's easier to ride, and the last few years have been a big challenge as far as physicality is concerned, and I think there's a couple different factors for that, right? With the courses that are on the tour being longer now, it's more demanding of the body for sure. Just because you got a lot of par 4s and 5s that are, max pull or, strong pulls. So you're throwing probably 70 to 80% of your shots are maximum pull. At least for me, I don't, some of the guys can throw their mid ranges 400s. I can't really do that anymore. I might be able to get 400, but I'd be really happy with 350 on a dime. But, yeah, I mean, this off season, I've dedicated myself a little bit more to making sure that I get some cardio and get some strength training in. The injuries do pile up. I mean, I've got a ton of stuff that just may be nagging or whatnot, right? Not really necessarily debilitating injuries, but stuff that I have to keep and be aware of, like my elbow and my shoulder. Just making sure that I'm stretched out and doing a little bit more of preparatory work before the rounds to make sure that I'm warm and I'm not just, jumping out of the car like I did when I was in my teens. I just jump out of the car, start ripping, at 9 hour drive, I'm ready. I'm, still a string bean. So, these days, just a little bit more, and just being consciously aware too. When I say play more, I mean, like, you got to keep on playing. Like, okay, some days you don't want to, but you got to go out and get warmed up. There's other days that I need to really be sure that I don't overplay. Like Mondays after the event are tough, right? It's just, I just try to find the balance, you know. I think maybe the passion of continuing wanting to do it has I've pushed through some of the pains of, injury and whatnot, just because I want to continue the journey and finish my career.
Yeah. And, you talk about injury. So there's the physical aspect of injury, and it was 2015, pretty bad hyperextension of the elbow, right?
That's correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty bad hyperextension that took you out for a while. What did you do so there's a physical recovery, and we can get a little into that, but more I want to hear about, that's your career. At that point, touring full time, that's your income, hyperextended elbow. Now I'm out. What do I do? And what kind of a mental place did you go through at that time? That's going to take some mental toughness to get through that.
For sure. Yeah, that was definitely one of the lower points of what I would consider my pro career, right? That hyperextension happened in Europe, and then I tried to play through it. I think that was one of the toughest things where I was in a position where I kind of had to play through it. I was already committed. I was already going to be in Europe for another 3 weeks, and then turn around not shortly after that was the Worlds in Pittsburgh. So, I tried to play through it, and it continually got worse. And then I actually dropped out of the Worlds, I think after round 4. It was like pretty excruciating. So, at that point, I didn't throw a disc for 8 months, and I went home to Grass Valley when I was still living there, and went to my parents' house and discussed, what the options were and what I felt like I needed to do to be able to continue, which was take time off, and not throw, and really give my elbow a chance to heal without, going out, because the passion drives me to go play every day or as much as I can. I played a lot of drums in that segment, right? I was playing drums over at my buddy Kevin's place, and that kind of gave me a nice refuge to be able to get an outlet for just creativity and also just not sitting on the couch. And I played a lot of drums through that section, and I actually think it helped in a weird way, just with some of the tendons. And, with drumming, you don't really overexert the elbow out to there a lot. A lot of stuff's tight in here. So I was able to kind of work it. And I noticed my playing would get stronger as that time went on. So that told me that, okay, my muscles are starting to grow, and I'm feeling a little more comfortable to start to do more physical stuff with the elbow. That was definitely a low point. I was ranked 3rd in the world or something like that, right? I mean, I was right there. Ricky and Paul, obviously number 1 and 2. But yeah, that was a tough one. And 2016 was tough too. I had to come back, and I didn't really have an option. So I went back on the road, and that's the only season I've ever been winless in my career. But yeah, just kind of tried to rebuild back through it.
Yeah. Okay. So low point to maybe even a harder low point by not having a win in 16. And we are coming to the high points, I promise. But what I want to hear is, I mean, so you found friends, you found something else to do, an outlet for creativity, camaraderie, around drumming and that kind of stuff. In 2016 on the road, it's a little more lonely. And so going without wins, how did you keep yourself up and motivated for the next event as that went along?
You can only get so much, right? You only have what you have in the tank. And obviously when I came back that next year, it's not the brightest point in my life for sure. Just try to keep on pushing, right? Like the deal is I knew in my heart that there was something more than what I'd already got, and what I had really wasn't too much. Felt like I had a good reputation on the road with a lot of the people, these different cities that I've visited, and been able to build a good friend base and all that. But yeah, just try to, give my all. And, again, sadly, right. If there was an option to be at home at that point, I probably would have, but it wasn't in the cards. So going back on the road, just tried to keep getting better.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes that's tough, but that's that champion's mindset. It's always pushing to the next thing. Always pushing to the next thing.
Well, and then coming out of 16, I knew it wasn't my best stuff. And then I vowed to get better through the winter and focus on my game. And in 2017 was where things started to turn around again, which felt great. Picked up some really good wins that season. So,
yeah. So let's jump to 2018, and it turns into be world champion Greg Barsby.
Yeah. Well, look, it's hard to jump to 2018 without 2017, because I feel like,
okay, let's talk about it. What happened?
I went from basically where I felt like I was at the lowest of the low, ranked top 5 in the world, not playing, not touching a disc, to then having to build my way back up with a season that wasn't all that great. And then in 2017, I picked up a win at Crush at the Con Show. That was my first win in a couple of years, which felt really good. And then I ended up winning Madisonville. I think it was Madisonville. Yeah, it's that trophy right there. Actually, that little skinny one. It's a bourbon barrel. And that was a really good win. Playing like some tough courses. We played this place, Mar Park, in Kentucky, and it's like up and down. It's awesome course. Super, super cool. But yeah, I got a win there, and then went to Europe after the Worlds, and that's when the European Open that I led all the holes until the very last one. So that was a big, big lift up, knowing that my game was starting to come back into shape and into form, right? I performed very well in front of the biggest crowd. So there was just a lot of positives that came out. Even though I ended up getting runner up, there were a lot of positives that I took from that event. And, I really just took it in, absorbed it, and then I just continued to put my head down, because I said, I know this is going to happen for me, so I just got to keep on pushing. And that's kind of where, that's kind of what led into 2018. I feel like that was a really big motivating factor for pushing it all the way to the World Championship.
Yeah. So and that's, that's a testament again to that champion's mindset. You pushed hard, you came in second, missed it by that much, as they say. And you took that and was like, you know what, this is not going to crush me. This is going to motivate me. I see what I can do. I see what's possible, and I'm going to push through to that. Was that how you felt?
Yeah. I won that tournament in a lot of regards. It just didn't have the final product, but I felt like the crowd was really with me. They were riding hard for me. I really did feel that kind of extra gear of motivation once that event was over, that I was back on the right path, because 2015, 16, I'm maybe thinking that I want to go back into the trade, or, pick up the welders, and make sure that, life can continue, because I was really kind of in between a rock and a hard place. So yeah, that one provided a lot to where I was like, I know I'm on the right track, and you just got to go out there and fight for it all the time. This sport is really tough to be consistent at, because there's so many variables. And I trust my game. So I was like, cool. I know I'm back into what I feel like is playing shape right now. 2 years after the injury, okay, I'm back into having a top 5 performance at the biggest tournaments, which where I was a couple years prior before the injury. So it was a long climb to get back into that mindset, I guess. So, but yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Talk about long climb. How about huge climb? It's like comeback kid. You could be a movie, man. That's amazing.
Thank you, man. I love the sport. I've loved the sport. I had some of the best mentors you could ever imagine when I grew up. And what's the big takeaway from that? I felt like it's not what the game owes me, it's what I owe the game. And I wanted to give my 100% to the playing side of the game to see if it was enough. And in my heart, I knew that I felt like I had what it took to win the biggest event. You know, when you got to play guys like Paul and Rick, you know, they might take it away from you. So, you know,
Yeah.
it's like those guys are so good. It's hard to fathom that you're going to go out and beat one of them or both of them in a 90-hole contest, because you know they've got that champion mindset and they've both done it. Whereas I was on the side of not have done it yet. So I think it's, you know, obviously there's a different pressure that's set in from once they've won, but there's also that inherent confidence that comes from knowing that I've been here and they've done it before.
I'm not going to phrase this right, but learning how to win is a skill. You have to learn how to win, and it's tough. And I don't know that anybody can necessarily teach that, but I am going to throw you on a spot. I'm going to ask you, learning to win, what advice would you give to the ones that haven't won yet on learning to win? I know, right?
No, I mean, it's a good question. I feel like you definitely experience how to lose a lot of times before you learn how to win. And then you have to go back and kind of go through the experience with a fine-tooth comb in your mind and say, okay, what was not only what happened, but what was I thinking and why things went that way? And it's a multitude of things that you can go into, from the disc selection, the shot selection, the shot shape, the misreading of the wind, right? This, that, the other. There's so many things that you can look back on and say, well, if I would have done this differently, maybe the outcome would have been different. So I would say to a lot of the guys that haven't won yet, that you really just got to relax inside your own game and be comfortable with what you're doing. I think that, and that, you know, I guess being comfortable might not be the right word. Staying assertive to the game plan and making your reads and making your adjustments.
Yeah. Yeah. Being confident in what it is that you're doing. But I think you hit on something else that's really important. And that is, go back to your last round or last event or whatever it was, and kind of do that post-mortem and go, okay, where did I do well? But also, where could I have done better? Learn from that mistake and then move forward.
Totally. Well, and today's game, there's even less mistakes that can be made. And
yes,
I think that's because of the talent level and also some of the courses that we're playing. So, you know, the courses these days don't necessarily provide the kind of technical challenge that courses did 10 years ago, 12 years ago, that were, I guess you'd say, well-attended events. A lot of the Pro Tour events, you know, Preserve, for instance, just doesn't have a ton of technicality, right? So you're going to have a bigger level at the top. You're going to have guys that are probably closer to each other at the top, just because the mistakes that you do make, they might cost you one, or maybe they don't cost you any at all, even though you let the drive fade off left. It didn't get into the out of bounds, and then you're pretty much in the same position if you were dead center fairway, right? So, you know, you can make little mistakes, whereas like in wooded courses and stuff, if you make angle mistakes or you make a misfire off the box, it can cost you 2 strokes really quick, because if you just hits the wrong side of the tree, you know, 2 strokes starts flying around. Whereas the courses we play now, there's like very few that I'm like, oh man, you could lose 2 or 3 with something bad happening. Most of the time those mistakes come from, miss cues, like throwing out bounds and not clearing the land space that's out there. Now you got to take it back. Basically a 2-stroke penalty if you do that. So it's just tighter at the top. Minus the few standouts. I mean, you've got guys that are really slaying it, like Gannon and AB. But you've got other players be right there, like Aaron Gossage. I mean, Adam Amos, right? He's won, I think, 3 Pro Tours. Probably doesn't get talked about enough. Really, really good player. So there's just more guys.
Well, there are more guys, and it's the guys on those type of courses that just throw it miles.
And then they don't make a mistake, right? I mean, if Adam's on, he's forehand and backhand, probably close to 450, 475. Unlock, if we go internet distance, he's throwing 5, right? So 500 either way. And then if he's putting well, I mean,
yeah, that
makes 2 minutes pound, right? And so
yeah, I miss the courses that were better balanced. You've got a few bomber holes, which are great, but you've got the majority have some level of technicality where you had to do a shot shape, even if it's, a longer shot. Like, for example, some of the courses at the IDGC, a lot of those are longer, but you still have to throw a shape.
Yes, totally.
I miss that.
Oh, 100%. And that's part of, I think, where the disc golf's got some growing pains right now is places that we play. And, yeah, I mean, hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years, things will continue to get better and we'll develop some more high level places to play and present the sport. And I totally understand from the other side, right? They need to be able to put it on video, make it look good and make it attractive to, the public at large. So it's just a fine balance right now, and like, it's tough. I'm not necessarily super fond of some of the courses. There's other ones that I really like, but it's like, that doesn't necessarily do the golfers much justice as it does in the TV.
Right.
So.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, they've taken the sport and elevated it. They made it accessible to literally millions of people over YouTube and Disc Golf Pro Tour, Disc Golf Network.
Yeah,
which is great. But the downside as a player, and I feel the same way, is I miss some of that technicality where you have courses that are just better balanced. I like a balance,
I look, I couldn't agree more. And speaking of balanced courses, right? This last year we played the Worlds at London Tech.
Okay.
And I think Paul did that one, and it was awesome. I thought it was one of the better courses that I've played in recent years where, I hadn't gone back to it again and again. It was my first time going there. But I loved a lot of the shot shapes, the balance of a few open holes and then some really tight wooded ones. Just really well done. So it's kind of a shame that they're going to be changing a little bit of that. But
yeah,
what are you going to do?
Well, that's exactly what you're going to do. Tell you what we're going to do now. Now, can we finally talk about your World Championship? Get this out of the way.
Sure. We could talk about my Worlds.
Yeah, let's smile and be happy. Okay, so 2018 World Champion. By the way, I went last night, watched the final round, just to kind of get a flavor for it. And I watched it then, but I hadn't seen it in a while. That was a really emotional win. There at the end in the interview, looked like you were choking some things back, maybe.
Oh, for sure. I mean, well, it's my life's work, right?
Yeah, 100%. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like, I think to the guys like the Listman brothers and Mike Loya, all my dudes back home, right? Who know who they are, Griff, Herm, and Seth Reeder, and all these guys that kind of took me under their wing early. flex and, just, and especially when it comes to Jeff and John, they're amazing putters, amazing players. And Jeff got second to Climo twice in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
And he's just an absolute technician, and I might get roasted for this, but I would go ahead and put them over Joe Mela and Mike Mosier as probably the two most technically proficient that have ever graced a disc. But they always imprinted in me like, look, you got to win the worlds, you got to win the worlds. And to think that I got that done and they didn't, all my mentors had never got that moment. So that was definitely pretty cool. Yeah, it was also emotional win just because I knew how much I had on the line, and I knew how hard I'd been working for those past 3 years to get back to this moment. I didn't really want to let that moment slip away.
And you did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Josh is the best, Josh is the best putter, period. Right. Like he just started making everything. And I've known Josh since I was 13 years old. I played against Josh at unsanctioned tournaments and weeklies and all the way up to the, having a battle for the world championship. So I would say that he's had the better of me in the all-time win-loss category. I bet you Josh, but it was nice to come out on top that day.
Yeah. And Josh at that time, he had 3 second place finishes at a world championship. So he was coming into it with having not more experience, but a different experience and maybe a little bit different hunger for it, having come in.
Oh yeah.
Back at 3 times. And you're right. His putting, I forgot how good the man was. I watched that round last night and it was just like, oh my gosh, incredible.
Yeah, Josh. When Josh hit with the putt on hole 1, if it would have maybe been like James or Yuli making that putt, I might have been rattled a little differently. But when it was Josh, I had already expected it because I've seen it literally thousands of times. And I'm like, here comes Josh,
Here we go.
And like, not this guy again. But yeah, I mean, big respect to Josh as far as being a player. He's an absolute warrior and one of the best to ever do it, and I've always respected Josh's game and watched how he played, even though he's got his own unique style. I feel like that's why he's so great. He did it his own way. And so to be able to come out on top over Josh is pretty good for me because he's beat me down a lot of times. So I'm like, man, he made me look like crap. He's just so much better than I am. So, but yeah, I mean, that was an emotional round, and I kind of buckled there under the pressure towards the end. I could have really run it up with the putting. I missed a couple putts where I was just a little nervous, but I got that one in on 17 after Josh had the roll away, and that gave me a little cushion on 18. So
2 shots.
My throwing was really great all week out there. I was just throwing the disc. Really, obviously, I made a lot of putts through that World Championship run, but I felt like in the end, I outthrew everybody.
Yeah. And they're at Smugs. It's definitely a more technical course,
Oh yeah. Well, you got to be able to navigate and the wooded course. It's pretty fair. So I just tried to stay to the gaps that I knew would get me opportunities. And that was kind of the game I played throughout that Worlds, was just trying to get opportunities at looks, and then if you make a bunch of them from circle 2, you maximize those opportunities. Maybe, I didn't need to park everything that week. And that's probably something I could continue to take in, just work on my putting hard, because the putter can get you a lot of places.
Yeah. Well, and your putting style, a more lofted putt, you can take runs at things that I would be scared to run at, because if you miss, it's not going very far by. If I miss from that kind of distance, I'm the next county.
And that's Jeff. That's Jeff coming out of me for sure. Jeff Lissman. I mean,
Okay.
those guys. I built my putt on Jeff Lissman and Barry Schultz. And then I kind of added my own little flavor in there, here and there. But I built that straddle putt in 2006 after the first time I got second place at a major to Avery.
Oh, wow.
So Avery won the Players Cup. I got second place, tied with Eric McCabe, 4 strokes back. And I recalled 6 or 7 straddle putts that I didn't make. And I went home very, very motivated to be the best straddle putter in the world after that. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's definitely the putter speed is a lost art. Guys need to continue to work in that and keep that part of the game. You're seeing certain parts of the game get phased out. Putting well is never going to be one of those things, and there's so many different ways to do it. I'm just glad that I could find my way to do it, and it works. Last year was not my best putting. I feel like I gave up about half of my tournament winnings on the putting green last year. So I was pretty disappointed. So I've made an effort to get back on the horse as far as the putting green. And I want to have a better season this year from close range.
Heck yeah, putting's where it's at, no matter what.
Yeah. And it just takes the practice, and anybody out there that wants to get better at putting, go get a basket and film yourself putting 20 times, break down your swing and your stroke, and try to just work intuitively through some of the kinks. I always equate it to like a flat piece of paper that's been crumpled up. You want to get it flat back on the ground and then iron out all the kinks. And if you can start to get the putting stroke nice and smooth and true, it's easier to identify where some of the pitfalls are. Like, are you coming back a little too quick? I was noticing myself where I was drawing back in and I was coming back too fast. I was losing a little bit of the grip and a little bit of the control that I had. So I've been trying to do a better job cognitively keeping that putt a little slower on that draw in, so that way my grip stays true, and then focus on a nice little pop and explosion. And been seeing some good results, which is nice.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it out here this year. Are you going to All Stars?
I'm not.
All Stars. Are you going to play in Florida? What's the next one after that? It's in Florida.
Yeah, Supreme Flight. Yeah, I will play Supreme Flight. I'm actually going to fly out to that event and then kind of going to throw it together. And then we'll be back in Texas for about a month. So it's great. I'm going to be able to stress test my new motorhome. I haven't really told anybody about this, but I got a new motorhome.
Oh, you did? Nice.
I did. Yeah. Living out of the van is tough. Like, especially the last 6 years, I've had this van. It's been absolutely great. We've done all the Barsby battles in it. We've been all over in that van. And, it's just tough without running water. It's tough without a place to go to the bathroom. Any semblance of privacy, because as soon as you open the door, you're in public. Be able to put my clothes on standing up.
It's the little things.
It is, but I think it'll also come back around with a few of those things. I think it'll come back to where all that can lead back into better performance. And
100%.
And fingers crossed, this will be a good one for me. Obviously, I'm a little nervous, talking about it because I've got a lot to learn with the whole system. But yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be really good and be a little more fun to tour. We still have a really busy tour schedule, but maybe a little bit easier. So we'll see.
Have you decked out the graphics yet?
No.
Going low key?
No, I've only had it for like 5 days, I think. I mean, I just bought it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, gee whiz, that is fresh.
Really fresh. It's a nice one. I bought used 2014 E-Series Isata, and it's a touring sedan. So it's got a couple of the nice things that maybe your your standard RV or motorhome doesn't have. It's got hydraulic self-leveling jacks.
That's nice.
It'll save me a half hour every time you pull up.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. Or more.
Yeah, or
especially
more.
if it's raining.
Exactly.
You don't have a good pad.
Yeah, so there's that. It's air ride suspension. It's not a standard suspension system. So, again, you're hauling 8 tons, right? So suspension is something that I've learned through the years, either with friends or being in other people's rigs. And then, yeah, it's got a real toilet. It's got a real toilet. It's not a plastic. It's a real.
There you go. You got an actual throne.
Man, yeah. So, like you said, it's a
Love
little. But yeah, I'm really excited to get into it. So Texas will kind of be my chance to stress test it and get to learn a little more about it while I'm still fairly close to home. Yeah, and then come April, we're gonna head on west. So yeah.
All right, good deal. I want to circle back to 2 things. One is putting real quick. How do you feel about the potential rule change of no step putt or jump putt inside circle 2?
I don't like it. I think that it's short-sighted, and just as far as actual gameplay is concerned, I think that the proper number is 14 meters. I think that's what they're really looking for. 66 feet is a long way to be able to hold balance 60 feet. Whereas I think 45 feet is probably a little bit more realistic, and would serve the sport a little bit better. That's my opinion on it. I think 20 meters is just too far. I get it. You're seeing some of the best players in the world that can do that stuff, right? Some of the tip top talent. There'd be a lot of people that struggle with that, from MPO players all the way down. So I don't love that proposed rule change. I mean, it would definitely change the gameplay for sure. It would definitely change the gameplay.
It seems like they're trying to do something to make putting more difficult, but I agree with you. I don't think they're doing it the right way. As I mentioned earlier, I talked with Isaac, fantastic putter. And it's funny, he said exactly the same thing you said. He said the number shouldn't be 60, push it out to 45 for circle 1.
Yeah.
And then don't worry about it.
Nice.
Call it done. Because at 60 feet, like you said, to generate, the power and what you need, a lot of guys are going to need a little bit of body to get out there, if not a lot of body, or you're going to see everybody move to kind of the Gannon-esque putt where it's kind of a, facing front, but throwing off the side of his body. You know what I'm talking about? It's, one of those.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think Isaac's on point. He's got a good head on his shoulders.
Yeah, he is. Good kid.
Yeah.
Really
yeah,
good
it's good. Man, last year at Worlds, let me just sidebar with what a show that dude put on at Worlds last year. He just went bye-bye on everybody. And what a story, dude. To go 2 in a row in where today's game is with all the talent, it speaks to the depth of his belief in his game. And he's obviously got a very unique putting form as well. Just real impressed, man. Tip of the cap to the current champ. That's so sick. That's so badass. Yeah. You see Isaac's putt.
And you see his hands. Every time I see that, I'm like, yeah, I recognize that one.
He really does serve it up pretty good, doesn't he?
It's absolutely.
It's so sick. I feel like last year I'm watching the Worlds. I was back at my Airbnb and I was watching the lead card. Or maybe I don't know if it's post-produced or not. I'm pretty sure it was live. And I was watching him finish out on London Tech, and there's that one little birdie hole you throw up and over and down, and something on the drive didn't go his way, and he was probably 80 feet out, and he jammed that 80-footer, and I said, I don't think anyone's going to catch him. Sorry, dude. oh, whoops, 80-footer. Oh, well, just throw it in there. And I was like,
Yeah.
What are you going to do when a guy's doing that? It's just really, really cool to see. I've been loving watching his brother in New Zealand recently too. I've been watching that whole thing. The Go Throw guys. It's been both those kids. The first time I heard about the Robinson brothers was from Dave Feldberg.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, well, Dave moved down to Lawrenceville, Georgia,
Yeah.
a few years back. So I guess that's probably why you knew about him.
Yeah, and he said these guys are going to be good. And then I'd seen them right when we went through Georgia and played and all that. So really, really cool. But yeah.
Yeah, good guys. All right. So I want to go back because I want to hit on one thing and see what your thoughts were. So back to 2018, so World Championships. And I was looking back through the rounds, and you see a score, and it doesn't always indicate what the player's mind was. But to me, it looked like something that might have been challenging, and I want to see what you thought about it. So going into round 3, you bogeyed the first hole. Then you birdied the next hole. Then you bogeyed the next hole. And then you got it going, and, it was gone. And what I'd like to know is, when you bogeyed that hole, did that set you back? How did you come back? How do you come back from a bogey in a hole of an event that matters? Especially the first hole.
Yeah, delete as fast as possible. I mean, you just you just have to be able to just compartmentalize and let it go quickly. I think that's where some of the best players are forged, is in that mental battle with themselves. What you're supposed to do, and if you didn't do it, great. I mean, whether you did it or not, it's behind you now. And I do remember that round in particular being a big one, because Paul had me by 6 strokes at one point during that round.
Yes, he did.
And I remember talking with my caddy, Nick, and I just made the commitment to myself that said, I'm not out here playing Paul. I'm out here playing the course to the best of my abilities, and that's what I need to focus all my energy on today and throughout the rest of the event. Because I knew I was still in good shape, but, Paul was tearing it up pretty good, doing what Paul does. And when I talked to him, I just kind of made that commitment with myself, saying, okay, I can't focus on him, because if I do that, then it's taking away from what I need to really focus on, which is exacting my game through the rest of this course. Because if I'm going to stay in this contest, I've already had 2 bogeys early in the round. I really need to have a strong finish to the end of this to keep at the top, no matter who it was, whether it was Paul or somebody else. When you're playing the World Championships, somebody's going to play hot.
Absolutely.
Somebody
and you had Josh Chance, and you had Josh Chasen in there as well.
Josh already in, yeah. And then and I think Yuli played the hot round that round and jumped up, or he was the second round, maybe he played super hot, so he was right in there too. But yeah, couldn't really tell you. Just kind of made the shift where I was like, I'm going to focus here on what I got to do, because I don't have any more room for mistakes. There's really no more room for error. I'm 1 under through like 6 or 7 holes. And I remember I finished, I think, 8 out of the last 12. So yeah, I think it was like 1 under through 6 with 2 bogeys, and then, shot 9 under on the round or something like that.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, it was a great card. I'm looking at it going, okay, I don't know all the history, but I see bogey, birdie, bogey, and then it's, calm before the storm, and then blue. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I finished that round really strong. I actually made that final putt to put me in the lead, which was cool, to go into the clubhouse with the lead.
Is it tough sleeping on a lead like that?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. I think that's something that, like you said, you got to learn how to win. All right, I've been in, at that point, probably close to 400 events, maybe a few more. Right, I've slept on a lot of leads, and I've blown them, and then I've come through, and so I mean, I think my processor was a little quicker by that point, where I'm like, okay, cool, all right, I know that is, and then I can cut the head off the snake. Whereas when I start to toil in my mind about what could happen or what I'd like to happen, just trying to like stay here now, and I got to give a big shout out to my guys who I stayed with at that Worlds.
It was.
I stayed with David Wiggins Jr., Justin Anderson, and then I want to say, oh my gosh, I'm spacing Karn's name. That's his last name for sure. I want to say Michael, but I could be wrong. I'd have to look at my Facebook. But my boy Carnes, who hasn't been playing much recently, that's why I'm spacing it. But great dudes. I actually hit up the Innova page. Was like, hey, David Wiggins is looking for a spot as well, or he hit up the page, and he's like, I'm looking for a space, and it was just us three at the time, so we linked him in. Everybody clicked. Everybody was super cool. We had one of the nice places up on top of where the resort is right here where everything's going on, and a lot of them are. And then we were up on the second shelf, so I had a nice like lookout area, right? Like we were just in the right space. So yeah,
so jealous.
Yeah, awesome. That week was awesome, man. And like, the guys, they weren't necessarily having the best week, so they'd be out of the house 2-3 hours before. So I really got like some quiet time to quiet my mind before the rounds and go warm up and kind of just get into my groove. So but sleeping on the lead, you got to kind of learn how to do that. Sometimes you can play over the tournament 100 times in your mind, but really just got to go out there and do the same stuff. I mean, that's what I asked Barry before the final round. I'm like, all right, Bear, you won a couple of these. What do we got? What have you got for me today? And Barry said, don't do anything. And just keep doing what you're doing, right? And don't do anything different. I'm like, Barry, I got to get these putts in the basket. Tell me to make all the putts, Barry. Yeah. Barry says to make all the putts, I'll make them. But he told me to just keep doing what I'm doing. But he was right. Because I had a good mindset through that event. Just kept on playing, just keep throwing the shots, keep getting opportunities, best foot forward, next shot. Just kind of like pitching a baseball game. I feel like if you see if a batter hits a home run off the baseball pitcher, right, then all of a sudden the pitcher, sometimes he's not fully there on the next pitch, and he leaves that hanging curveball, and then the next guy hits it out too. And it's just kind of the same mentality, right? You got to be able to leave it behind you and next pitch type of deal.
Yeah, and that is one of the most difficult things to do, I think. Just
without question. We all have expectations, right? Everybody has their expectation of how they want to play, and when things don't go according to that, the reaction's one way or the other, right? You can go two ways on that road. You can take it as negatives, or you can leave it there and continue to go on the path. So that's probably some of my biggest, like we alluded to earlier with the guys that haven't won yet, is stay on your path, stay true to it, and hopefully it goes your way. I mean, I'm so grateful and thankful every day that things went my way on the course that day, because it's shaped the course of my life the last 6 years. I've been able to actually make a life and bought a house and trying to move forward in life and not just endlessly tour without a carrot on the end of the stick. There for a couple of years, I'm like, what am I doing, right? What's the goal? So now I have a little greater sense of purpose.
Yeah. Well, and it also, because of what you went through, it better prepared you for that, as well as I sense such a level of gratitude for that win and the life, I'm not going to say the life that it gave you, but the life that you earned from it, because you earned it.
Yeah.
And other wins as well. I mean,
yeah, it gave me some breathing room, right? I feel like it let me take a breath where I was so high strung there, especially like 2017, 2018, when I was playing really well, but I didn't really have anything, at that point I was renting cars on the tour. I didn't even own a vehicle. So I was just kind of burning the candle at both ends, playing a lot, playing really well, but I didn't really have any breathing room. I felt like my back was a little more against the wall. So, which I think also led me into that win too. So there's something to be said about putting yourself in a place where your back is against the wall. And when it comes to sports, you have to be, it's a cutthroat game. So, I respect most all the competitors I have out there. But I know once we get on the court that it does things to people. It does things to people. That's the best way I could put it.
Yeah, well, you're fighting for a living, and there's only one first place, and first place cash is pretty good, and after that, it drops pretty quick.
Yeah, well, and what
makes a difference
with the championship? It's the ring, It's that.
Oh yeah,
it's that long term, which I felt like I really got to check it off the list. Where I said, okay, cool. When I was a little kid, I wanted to win this, and I won it. So now what? I still wonder now what, I'm still going on tour. I just love the game, dude. I just love playing disc. Like it's been like, just such honor and pleasure to be able to go and play so many awesome courses that people work so hard on. I see how much work goes in from the volunteer side of things and seeing the hard work the Pro Tour does and the people that set up the courses. I mean, the sport really relies on that, and that's kind of our flotation device is a community.
100%. All right, I know our time is running short. I got one last thing for you.
Okay.
I got two things, but they're quick. Okay, so the first question is, where did the Iron Leaf and your impression of the champ come from, and could we get a little sample of it?
Oh, no sample. Look, it's on YouTube. Murder Mike got me to finally tell my Ken Climo story.
Yeah. Oh, I have it too.
Yeah. So yeah, that's right. You have another one. But I think it all originated over a couple of beers I was having with Matty O early in our career. I want to say it was like 2009. Maybe it was like right in Kansas City time, or I don't know. So we were somewhere, and we were just laughing because I could impersonate the champ, and it was just funny to us, right? It was like, and he's such a larger than life character that you say the most rambunctious things, but if you say it like the champ, people just listen, right? Because you listen to the champ, what I mean? So right. I think it was just me like riffing off of that, and Matty O finding it pretty hysterical. I think we were just like cracking up one day, and then I'd like done it with a few other people, right? And like whenever it's appropriate. And then Murder Mike, he's like, bro, we got to get this on camera. And I felt like that one was just really authentic. And that was in Santa Maria where we filmed that. It was after the NorCal SoCal Championship. And we had a fun night the night before. And I think it was just, that culmination of just kind of off the top of my head. And that was the story. That's my interpretation of the story. And
okay.
I also want to clarify, which I've clarified this in the past.
Okay.
The Iron Leaf is located at Dave Feldberg's home course in Michigan. Okay. In Michigan, it's at, what is that course called? Gosh. Coldbrook Park is where that story is from. There's been a lot of rumors. There's so many people that are like, oh yeah, that was at Lemon Lake. That was at Michigan Worlds in 2008. So just want to set the record straight. Just want to let everybody know it was in Michigan where it happened. And it was classic. But yeah, that's kind of where it came from. And it's my version of the champ, right? Ken
it's awesome.
And he's very much unique and one of one type of guy. But I of course I go in and embellish stupid stuff and just It's just hilarious.
Man, that's one of the reasons that we all love you. You are the people's champ. You're like a real dude.
Ken's, I know Ken now a little more personally than I did when I was younger, but, just respect everything that he's done and grinded. I'm really happy to see, a new opportunity for him to be part of the sport. And I thought that's just really cool. I just want to give him a shout out for being a good sport with me. Right. And, me being wily and whatever, him having to deal with us coming up and, I don't know what's going on there. Just chihuahuas, but, yeah. So yeah, that's it. I mean, maybe you'll catch me at the right time this year on tour and you'll get an Iron Leaf story. If anybody's watching this, don't ask me. It'll just come out.
Has to be organic. We get it.
Yes, it's hard.
Get it.
Look, I mean, it's funny to me too at times, but then there's sometimes where I'm like, oh man. It's like that. It's like that hit song, right? Where they've made 7 albums since then, but then everybody loves that one song. So, but yeah, it's
That's a good one. All right. Well, that's probably a good place to wrap it up. Thanks so much for being on. Yeah, thanks for being on. It was awesome to catch up with you. Will you make it to Minnesota this year?
I am. I have yet to put out my tour schedule because it's been changing so much. Obviously with a new change in vehicle means maybe a little change in the tour. So I am planning on coming to Preserve. Look forward to getting back up to Minnesota. Yeah, it was really a tough call because I really do want to play Kone-Pishte and Ale as well. But it better serves my interest to stay stateside before going over to Europe for the Norway and World stretch. So yeah, I will be there. And I really look forward to it. I can't wait to come back up to Preserve.
Yeah, well, I'll look forward to seeing you. Are you going to make the Majestic? I think that's the week before or week after. I can't remember.
I don't think so. Potentially, if it's the week after, I might. Because, I got to go back. I have my jersey right here. You can't see it. Here, maybe. Oh.
Yeah, sir. There you go. Go wild.
I know. I need to get that up on the wall. It's one of my favorite ones. But Craig, thank you so much for having me on. I wish you the best with this, and I really hope that you can edit out some really good stuff out of this.
Yeah. Oh, I will. All right, Greg. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Yeah.